Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Sunday, February 5th, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern. The day on which we come to know the Supreme Consciousness within us and the outside world will also appear to us like the expanse of the Supreme Consciousness. The whole will be a mirror to us when we become a mirror within. If and when we stand near a stone, then we will be able to see ourselves even in the stone. Then we will not look at the stone with that hardness in which we look at man now. Then we shall touch a stone, as if we are touching our beloved, because the stone is not stone. Then it is God. Osho. One of the highest experiences any of us can have in our lifetime is to know ourselves as the divine. When we let go of all fear, drop every judgment we have, release all those opinions about ourselves and others, we stop believing we are separate from divinity. We can discover a place of sacred refuge within that is like no other. It's only our minds that makes us think we're separate, when in reality, we are one with the ocean of existence. It is not until we realize that we are not this mind, nor our egos, that this false identity ceases to run the show. We've created this idea about who we are, yet it's just a conglomerate of thoughts. It is not who we truly are. Once we drop all separation, only then can we let go and find true, permanent peace within. Some people may say it's blasphemous to see yourself as divinity. Yet I say it's totally ridiculous not to. The cause of all suffering in this life stems from the one tiny little idea that we are separate from the source of divinity. When this belief is truly challenged, when we believe its grip on us, there is such a tremendous freedom and love found that will never ever be the same again. I invite you to sit with this challenge this week. If you truly want to be free from all the suffering in your life, in order to do that, to step out of suffering and find total unification with divinity, first, we must choose to deeply accept in our core that there exists a higher intelligent consciousness, conscious creative source of energy that runs through everything. God exists, divinity exists, and divine intelligence exists. We must feel divinity. It's like one single thread that is weaving itself throughout every fiber of the entire tapestry of this universe. There is no thing and no person that is not connected intimately with this divine intelligence. Next, we must choose to come to know individually our personal connection with divinity. This is a very intimate understanding that comes only from within oneself. We must understand that this is the connection from where all manifestation happens, meaning we are connected to an infinite field of divine intelligent energy, this universe, where each separate individual throughout the field is the actual center of the entire field. When we realize that we are those infinite points from which this entire universe revolves around, we realize every thought we think is connecting and creating our experience of reality in this infinite field. We realize that we are an all-powerful super manifesting being who has no limits on what we can attract and create. The only thing that stops us is the ego mind. Lastly, we come to realize that everyone and everything is the same all-powerful source of divinity. Even though the mind may judge others, there is nobody who is not connected to divinity. How can the finger ever work separately from the hand? All beings have this divine thread of intelligence running through their consciousness. No matter how unconscious they are, it still exists within each living cell. Once we realize that the divine self that we are is also the same divinity in everyone else, we stop perceiving ourselves as separate and see them as an aspect of the infinite self, the real you. So a really big question here is, what can we do to drop the ego? Well, this is a tricky one because there is nothing we can physically do. The ego is an illusion, like a shadow. What can we do to get rid of our shadows? We can't do anything. We simply stop focusing on it and redirect our attention back to the light. By simply stopping all association and over-identification with the I or little me, we dismantle the ego and become free. By simply stopping all association with over-identification with the I or little me, we dismantle the ego and become free. The I thought truly believes it is limited, small, powerless, and separate from the source. We can attest to this as we have all sorts of problems and issues in our lives that seem very real. We don't normally feel like an unlimited, all-powerful, divine source of energy because we are very, very, very attached to our egos and their limiting belief system. The thoughts that say, I am this, or I am that, or I'm not that, create our entire ego trip. Once we let them go and stop identifying with them, then we are free from the shadow. So enlightenment is more of an internal game of unraveling our small false selves and rediscovering the bigger truth, which is that we also, mainly, this unlimited, infinite, vast, all-powerful self, it feels quite blasphemous and is truly quite humbling, to say the least. To fully awaken from the ego, we must choose to release our identification with every positive and negative belief we have wrapped around ourselves. All ideas are limiting ideas. Even the idea that I'm God does not have a limitless experience within it. There are so many fixed ideas about what God is and what God is not, that the subconscious mind will still find a way to cling to something limiting. Then we let go of all ideas, because they are all just thoughts anyway. A very magical thing occurs. We realize we are timeless. The very moment the ego is freed from every single idea that there is only total surrender to the infinite, eternal aspect of our being, and this is the moment when divinity pours into us, it is a feeling of pure ecstasy. We stop being so easily hooked into believing I am XYZ or not ZYX, because we feel how it instantly creates suffering. Most everyone we will ever meet in our lives are living in suffering. Most everyone we will ever meet in our lives are living in suffering. So the idea that we could become free from this suffering and life without it will seem like we are some fish deciding to get out of the pond and walk over the land and dive into the real ocean. Every human being will have some sort of negative or positive reaction to us actually giving up our suffering, ego, when they meet us. It is an event that is life-changing. When we meet someone who is free from their ego completely, the greatest truths in this life, radical and truly mind-blowing. The greatest truths in this life are radical and truly mind-blowing. The greatest truth you may ever discover on this spiritual path is that you are nothing, everything, and the meeting of these two polarities, you are nothing, everything, and the meeting of these two polarities. The mind is too small of a container to hold all three of these great truths. It is only the heart and the soul that can feel the truth within them, because this is where we feel our connection with divinity. We are divinity and beyond all ideas of divinity. Simply surrender to that. We are divinity and beyond all ideas of divinity. The only way to know ourselves as divinity is to become unidentified with everything, and also know we are one with everything at the same time. The only way to know ourselves as divinity is to become unidentified with everything, and also know we are one with everything at the same time. This realization cannot be forced, yet happens instantaneously when we drop deep enough into the exploration of the truth of who and what we are. God is there only if you surrender. Surrender makes anything God. Surrender gives you the eyes, and everything that is brought to these eyes become divine also. We all grow up as kids forming our ego around age 7. This is the human experience. We create this ego so that later in life we can transcend it. We create this ego so that later in life we transcend it. Actually, it lies in the body dormant until we discover it. This is a spiritual method and madness of awakening. When we believe we are separate and disconnected from a divine, all-loving, infinite source and think there is no connection at all, our return to divinity becomes even more wonderful and amazing. We will each experience this reunification when the physical body dies. Yet the trick is discovering before our human time has ended. Discover before our human time has ended. We are supposed to believe that our limitations are real. We need to believe in the illusion of lack and struggle, just so that one mystical day we can drop it all. This is the purpose of believing in a lie. We are supposed to believe that our limitations are real. We need to believe in the illusion of lack and struggle, just so that one mystical day we can drop it all. This is the purpose of believing in a lie. When we create the illusion that we are stuck, separate, challenged, disconnected from the infinitely conscious, loving source, the day we return back to it, we receive the greatest spiritual experience of our lives. Divine unification on the deepest levels would not be possible without the illusion and experience of having an ego. It is all perfectly orchestrated. The most divine plan we can imagine, so there is really nothing to worry about. There are already life-transforming seeds in our subconscious mind, which will sprout and grow into trees of abundance, love, creativity, superior health, and unlimited potentiality inside us. Good news is that this universe gives us an infinite number of lifetimes to wake up and realize that we are already a powerful, divine, exquisite being who already contains the essential fabric of the divine universe at the core. What more could we want? This universe is already infinitely patient with the speed of our realization progress of this. We don't need to push ourselves to become a better person or even to become free from suffering. Our future self is already enlightened. All we need to do is relax, be present, show up authentically in this moment, and we will feel all of our past and future lifetimes come through us. We can do this. Just try being 100% open to whatever is here now. Be open to whoever and whatever is happening in your life right now. Open yourselves up to existence. Let everyone and everything into our hearts, as if we were actually opening up to the divine. This enlightening opening up practice is about trust. Trusting in a greater, more intimate connection with this life. Divinity is also within the most resistant aspects of our being. And yes, even those parts of us who are saying no to being loved, look deep enough and you will find divinity. This absolute opening up experience creates a vulnerability in our ego, which is the only place where a permanent state of connection to divinity, deep eternal love, can reside. It is where the path to instant manifestation in the material world and spiritual enlightenment are both found. It is the secret we've been searching for our entire lives. Opening ourselves up fully is finding this real, uncompromised, deeply eternal loving happiness 24 hours a day is the main goal of our lives and why we are truly here. It's good to know that this life will always throw a curveball at us to keep us alert and awake. The mind is a slippery trickster, and that it can hide from the truth and create all sorts of fabricated illusions about what truth is, without really surrendering to what is here now. It's this untamed mind that creates all the extra difficulty that we are experiencing in this life. It can make us think that we are not the master, that we are slaves to its ideas. May also think if we sat down to relax for a moment, we would miss our one and only golden opportunity to freedom that will never come our way again. Some people ask me, what's the difference between mind, right? My mind and my ego? Not much. It's just that your ego is the personification of your mind. The mind gets attached to the physical body and thinks that this is all it is. The body makes us identify with the mind and vice versa. And this game of attachment is what creates the ego. When we are thinking that we are these bodies and we have these problems, these feelings, these thoughts, we start becoming identified and lose the connection with our infinite selves. Don't touch the mind. Don't listen to the mind. Don't believe in anything that it thinks. The mind can only live in duality. And this is also an illusion. One day, the mind will love your mate. The next day, hate your mate. The mind swings like a pendulum and cannot be trusted. It only knows polarity and how to believe that the opposite is not true. Everything that exists in the mind is subject to change. It is only when we master the mind, bring the mind to stillness through meditation, that we can tame the mind and make it realize that we are its master. Then amazing and miraculous things begin to happen. We will find that the only true foundation in this life is our simple, soft, loving, sweet presence that arises from consciousness itself. This pure consciousness never changes. Everything else changes. We are the pure consciousness, and we are the only thing that's real. And everything else is unreal. By simply bathing in pure consciousness, each moment becomes our golden ticket to return home to the heart. Remember, whenever our egos behave in a destructive way, it is really trying to relieve us of its burden. Deep down, the ego knows that it is not real and that one day it will cease. And we will realize what a great sham was pulled over our eyes. When we leave the body and God Source takes us back home, this ego will be gone forever. Never again will we, our ego and personality, exist. Yet we don't have to wait for its ending. We can transcend the ego now and return to the source of love. It's discovering and then letting go. Just put it as simply as possible. It's discovering and letting go at the same time. We create the ego mind so that we can overcome the ego mind, which leads us directly to the front door of divinity, pure consciousness, the God that we are. And every time we allow, subconsciously or consciously, the ego mind to run us, we suffer. People ask, "Well, don't we suffer anyway?" No. When we go within and embrace the gods that we are, all the suffering, pain, worry, stress, fear, anxiety, all of it is gone. We don't suffer. Once we discover who and what we are, we don't suffer. Because we get to the understanding, we come to the understanding that we know whenever the ego mind tries to guide us or blasts us with all kinds of thoughts that aren't ours. And we will eventually know all of our past lives and all of our future lives. Not in judgment, but in review. and watching. If you were to enter an animal, right? Your consciousness entered an animal. We're all animals, but let's just say, let's say a cow, right? And you would experience the physical form, and then you'd be tagged and taken to slaughter. And you would feel all the pain, excruciating. Now, do you believe, let's say that you flipped back and entered a human body with the memory of being in that cow's body before slaughter? You believe that you would harm another animal? Do you honestly think you would? Don't believe so. Because you will have experienced what it's like in a cow's body, pig's body, horse's body, deer body. If you cut yourself, and the reason that we'll cut ourselves is because in most cases, we aren't focused on the now. We're focused on yesterday or tomorrow. Let's say you cut yourself because you weren't focused on the now and exactly what you were doing. Would you cut yourself again? And coming to the full conclusion of that, in these bodies, before we leave them, is paramount. Many of us believe that the trickery of the ego mind is ending because we are discovering what it truly is. And we're learning how to abandon it subtly so that eventually it no longer exists. Let's say that you were traversing the galaxy and you came across this part of the galaxy. You look at this planet and you say, my goodness, look at all the pain and suffering. Would you help them? Or would you keep flying on by? Now, I believe that you would help them if you knew that they were part of you. But it gets a little gray when you don't know that. When we realize that we are the core of creation, and all that there is, ever has been, ever will be, ever beyond, and forever, that we know exactly that our thoughts create. And that we can shift and change anything outside of us by doing it within us quickly, almost instantaneously. And all along, the truth is to discover that we, all of us, are divine spiritual love. And when we become that clear, we'll spread it all over the planet. Because why? And how quickly? Instantaneously. Because the gods in all these bodies are one. I'll join you in a meditation. I'll return to close this out. Take an easy, slow breath in through the nose. And an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. It doesn't matter so much if everything is exactly how your ego thinks it should be. What's more important is your soul's purpose here. Do you want to feel the amazing freedom from finding and following your soul's mission? Whenever you get attached to life's small details, the more tense and tightly your mind-body becomes. Anytime your mind becomes over-focused on the tiny details inside of your little fishbowl, the less conscious you become of the amazing, divine, infinite ocean of bliss that exists inside you and all around you. Take a step back from this overly critical and highly detailed, scrutinizing mind for one day. Choose to be free from all insignificant details for 24 hours. Notice how your body feels. Focus instead on the life lessons that your soul came here to learn. How to always trust life and become kind, loving, and fearless. It just feels good to release the ego and all its tight grip on how it thinks things should be in order for this life to be perfect. Everything is already perfect, exactly as it is. This universe is always far more intelligent and amazing than anyone can imagine. Take this with you for the rest of the day and the evening and night and the following morning. We'll return here Monday, February 6th, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times, and stay in deep gratitude, no matter what's going on outside of you.